In India, only 25% of the people get their regular health checkups done. That means 75% of Indian population are delaying their preventive health checks. And even among people who are very aware about their health, 60% of them delay their preventive health checks towards chronic conditions like diabetes, hypertension, dyslipidemia, and heart diseases. So, if you are one among those people who get regular health checkups done, that means you're already ahead of most people. But staying ahead of these people doesn't mean you're already ahead of the disease. Your reports are normal. Most people feel relieved by hearing to this news. But normal doesn't define anything about your symptoms. It could be fatigue, brain fog, reduced concentration, lack of focus, reduced productivity, or even sleep issues which are not explained by your normal reports. If your reports are normal, why do these symptoms, which are very non-specific, keep coming back again and again? Hi, I'm Dr. Samatha, Medical Director at PMX Health. At PMX, we focus on catching those problems even before they turn into real-time diseases. In this video, I'll explain why standard blood reports do not explain those early non-specific symptoms and what you should be looking at to understand your complete health. Because many issues like metabolic dysfunction, early insulin resistance, nutrient insufficiencies, and mild hormonal disturbances happen, and these may not even show up in regular standard blood reports. When your report says the lab value is falling within normal reference range, it says that you're falling within the reference range. But these reference ranges are set on the standards of average population level. So these are the people who are not yet being diagnosed with a disease yet, but they are not optimal also, because they most of the time have symptoms like weight gain, cognitive decline, low energy, poor focus, or some disturbances in their joints. So these average ranges are set from these population of people who have unexplained symptoms but are not diagnosed with disease yet. So if somebody's blood biomarkers are falling within the so-called normal range, it doesn't mean they are in perfect health, because these are the people most of the time they face symptoms like sleep issues, challenges in their weight, or even poor focus or energy issues, for which they don't find any answers in the lab reports, because those lab reports say your values are falling within the normal reference range. What we are missing are those values which define the peak health or optimal health, and blood biomarkers which are not explaining the symptoms at all. So ultimately, normal is based on what is common in a population, but what is optimal is defined only for a single individual. Optimal should mean that they should not have any of the symptoms that I have talked about, they should not have any disease, and they should be in their peak health, and their reports also should be perfect. That is optimal health. So let's take a very common example. People usually look at their fasting blood glucose or HbA1c to understand their metabolic condition, and they see that the fasting blood glucose is 99, which is not falling in pre-diabetes or diabetes range, and they think it is normal. Or their HbA1c could fall below 5.7, which is their HbA1c could be 5.4, and they feel they are in good metabolic health. But these are the same set of people. They could be having symptoms like easy energy crashes, more cravings towards carbohydrates, feeling sleepy in the afternoons. These reports did not explain these symptoms. Then what are the better tests? Better tests for these set of people who want to know about their metabolic function is fasting insulin and home IR. Because to understand how metabolism works in a given individual, there are various parameters that one can look at. HbA1c and fasting blood glucose are the biomarkers which increase at a very later end of the disease. So if you want to catch hold of very early metabolic disturbance, then we need to pick different biomarkers which rise very early, and also we need to look at those ranges. When kept in certain range, you don't have these symptoms. So looking at that, you should check for your home IR, which should fall under 1, and your fasting insulin levels, which should be under 7. When you have these biomarkers under these levels, it means you are in most optimal metabolic health. And science is changing every day. These lab reports change once in 2 to 3 months. That means if you get a test today, you follow some lifestyle nutrition protocol, and the only time your blood reports change will be after 2 to 3 months. But body is very dynamic. Today we have wearables and tools which can tell us what action we are changing is bringing in certain element in your body. So we have more optimal preventative tracking that we can do, like a continuous glucose monitor. If you want to know you're in peak metabolic health, then beyond HOMA-IR and fasting insulin, there will be something called glucose variability and time in target, which would define how well your body is consuming and using the energy that is coming from the food that you're eating and how stable your energy levels are throughout the day. So this is the progress of preventive health. If you believe your normal reports mean that everything is okay, then you're mostly mistaken. There are certain gaps in understanding what your reports mean to you. There could be a bunch of individuals who do not have any symptoms and they got their preventive health checkup done. And there could be other bunch of people who have these non-specific symptoms around inability to sleep, snoring in the night, weight gain, those energy crashes, and reduced attention span. So these are the two sets of people. On one side there are symptoms, on the other side there are no symptoms. But what we need to find in the blood reports are the patterns or the trends from how are your biomarkers changing from the recent blood test. Is there any shift or trend that is changing which can help us understand that your biology is drifting? For most people who have symptoms, they could see that their biomarkers are not within the optimal range. They are changing. For example, their fasting insulin has been increasing in the last 1 year from 7 to 15. Or for some people, their HSCRP is increasing from 0.8 to 1.5. For some people, there is change in the early morning cortisol rise. Or for some people, there would be change in their gut health, or they have bloating often. So these symptoms are most of the time aligned with or tell us a story that your biology is slowly drifting or changing from what it used to be its peak or its best in your 20s. So this slow change or drift in biology needs different way to look at the patterns or different way to look at the results. So your reports could mean normal, but if you compare it with your previous report, there could be some change in the value already. So that is the shift or change or a pattern that we need to identify, and that is a gap we need to fix. So for these set of people, we need different set of biomarkers. Like I explained before, not HbA1c or fasting blood glucose, they need a CGM or they need a HOMA-IR. Likewise, these individuals, TSH could mean different. For somebody, shift in TSH from 2 to 5 in itself explains that their thyroid health is not in its peak state or not in its optimal state. So it could be symptoms or no symptoms, but it's all about identifying those set of biomarkers which actually defines the preventative health, not the regular standard labs which defines a disease. And for certain other set of people, it's identifying the patterns, how your symptoms are matching to the change in the biomarkers. So this is the gap we need to fix by identifying the right kind of blood tests which define the preventative health, and also identifying the right kind of optimal range which keeps you in your peak health. Now, even when people get tested routinely, there are certain limitations to it. Some people get tested only when there is a problem, and that too a single problem, and they test for a single biomarker. But body doesn't work that way. For a single symptom to happen, body always functions together. Cardiovascular system speaks to metabolic system speaks to gut health. So, if you're doing a single test, you're maybe missing the reason why the person has a symptom. That is number one challenge. Number two is, most of the time, tests are done in a very episodic format. People get it done once a year and they don't get all the tests done. They get only few tests done, and that's how they miss out on the continuous care, or they miss out on the change in the patterns that body will try to show if you get it more regularly than doing it episodically, like once a year or once in 2 years, or only when you have a problem. Third most important problem, if you go to a place to get health checkup done, there are different panels. There is a hair loss package, there is a skin health package, there is a cardiac package, there is a hormone package. By doing these tests independently, we are trying to diagnose or find out if you have a particular disease in that particular area or not. But what it is not trying to explain is your biology drifting? Are the systems working in sync, or they have gone out of balance? We would know this only when we test for all the systems and we see that interconnectedness. Another gap is how we look at lifestyle and reports as two separate things and how we do not connect them. For example, somebody is going through a lot of stress. They work throughout the day, they work through most part of the night, they eat late, they sleep late, and they wake up very early, sleep is compromised, the productivity is compromised, all of that. And they got the blood test, and that could be within normal reference ranges. But the symptoms are not yet explained, and neither do these symptoms reflect in the blood reports. Now, we are searching for a solution in a wrong place. When the biology is shifting early and slowly, it would take some time for it to reflect in the reports. But before that, we have more preventative variables like, for example, CGM for glucose variability, which you cannot find in a blood test, heart rate variability, which can be detected from a variable which cannot be detected in a blood test. Similarly, finding the sleep architecture and getting to know the stages of the sleep from a sleep ring, which you do not know in a blood test. So, this is the most common problem we see in people who get their regular blood checkups done and search for solutions in the wrong place. So if you're feeling something is off and you have non-specific symptoms and your blood reports show they're normal, you're not imagining it. It's just that you're not looking for the right kind of tests or you're not looking at the right levels. A few years ago, there was not much focus on preventative health and there were not many blood biomarkers like today. The understanding on longevity and preventive health both are changing these days. Today we know there are much more better tests and there are much more better tracking devices that can look at the early drift in the biology of the body which may not be detected in the standard tests. So this is a very important phase where your biology is drifting and the power is in your hand to take the complete charge and can reverse the problem and bring it back to optimal. So this is a very important phase. Finding the right test, keeping it in optimal range is very crucial for preventative health and longevity. Thank you for watching this video till the end. If you find this video informative, please don't forget to subscribe to PMX Health and share these videos.